Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by Doominal Crossing. Doom, it is a holiday here today in Canada. I understand that is not the case in America. So rip to all my American friends, but you guys will have a long weekend next week. How you doing?
Yeah, I was about to say, our holiday is next weekend. I'm actually going to be working on that day, as I told you, so we might be recording on a little bit of different schedule than we usually do. But I did get another day off to replace that day that I'm working the holiday, so it's not like I'm working extra shifts or anything, just have my schedule changed around a little bit. So yeah, everything's good in the hood. Things are looking good for the house that I'm looking at right now. Nothing's set in stone, but I'm hoping to get a confirmation, if not today, then by tomorrow, on securing that place. And yeah, that's going to be great. Otherwise, for all the folks in the Discord, specifically on our Metroid Prime 4 channel, you might have been noticing I've been extracting the game's files, and I've been posting like a lot of music and sound effects that I've been discovering in the game. That's been like a lot of fun, really dissecting everything, all of these, some of the new recordings that are used, some of the old recordings that were extracted from the Prime trilogy and brought back, and, kind of really just digging around this game and, just seeing all that's there. A bunch of unused material too, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I've just been really having fun just kind of treasure hunting this thing.
There you go. Have you found any good treasures so far?
I have, yeah. So I posted. There's a bunch of so a lot of the all the cutscene dialogue, first off, is isolated. So it's all by itself, and there's a bunch of pre-recorded, almost like these kind of Microsoft text-to-speech style versions of some of the cutscenes that are played.
Is it all
and
just
they're still
you
left
talking?
No. This is like the entire cast. So
okay.
all the Federation troopers played through MS text to speech, and they're still there in the game files. Yeah, and so I posted a couple of those in the channel as well. And someone, I can't remember who, but someone brought up man, that should be an Omega Metroid marathon stretch goal where we mod Metroid Prime 4 with the text to speech versions of all the dialogue, and I low-key kind of think that's a great idea.
Oh boy, that would be quite the stretch goal. Yeah. Well, good for you. I have not mustered up the resolve to pick up Metroid Prime 4 since we stopped talking about it and kind of the walkthrough was finished for OmegaMetroid.com. I'm still rewriting the boss guide for the website, but I paused on it and I just I know that nobody wants to hear it. I do just feel sad, diving into Metroid Prime 4 and thinking of all the things that could have been that ultimately were not. So I have to admit I had to take a break because I was really. I was really sad with the game and how it turned out, and a good segue to our episode last week. We were talking about the sales of Metroid Prime 4 and asking if it was a flop, and we had a bunch of people that were kind of defending it and saying no, it's sold kind of in line with a lot of the other Metroid titles, and you know what, that's not false. And we don't know what exactly the sales are, because 1.1 is definitely different than 1.9 million, but I still do think that given the rising ship of not just Metroid, but all of the titles that were the franchises that we saw in the Switch era, all of those games, most of them had their best performing entry sales wise, and to see Metroid just kind of stumble like this, it really did hurt. It really did hurt. So you said it last week, and I've kind of been thinking about this actually over the course of the week, and you said is what happened with Metroid Prime 4 releasing basically worst case scenario, and I'm not going to go that far, but it's not far off either. So it's a delicate one, I think.
I think we will. I will say I don't think we'll know that until like we know what Retro Studios' next game is, and I think if Retro Studios' next game is not Metroid Prime 4, I think it's fair to say this is a worst case scenario.
I mean, the
But I
game
don't
could
know.
have been like completely unplayable, right? Like it could have been
Right,
a
right.
total broken mess.
It could have been it could have been the original alleged Bandai Namco build. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have, but
But
it's not. It's something
yeah, I don't know.
different.
It is what it is. But today we're going to be talking about a much brighter future, though. We're not going to be dwelling on all of that today.
Not on the past. And to get to what we're talking about today, we have to do some plugging, Doom, because we have to set the stage here. As I mentioned last week, and I don't know if the episode was out at the time or not, but it's definitely out now. The season finale of GUI Plays Metroid 2 is now out. It's out. It is there. We have eradicated the Queen Metroid. We have saved the last Metroid, and we are really excited to announce the next season of GUI Plays Metroid is going to be GUI Plays Super Metroid. And this is actually Goo's second time playing Super Metroid. I did make him play it once before, and he liked it a lot. And I'm hoping with the extra context of Nestroid and now Metroid 2, he's going to like it even more than than he currently does. But all this is to say that we are going to be really diving into the Super Metroid world, which is apropos because today's episode, man, it's all about Super Metroid, a bright spot, one of the shining stars of the Metroid series. I always have a fun time talking about Super Metroid. I played Super Metroid last week again, just to de-rust a little bit and get into it, and I just love this game so much. So yes, we are very excited to talk about it here today. And we are going to be, I guess we'll just jump right in here, Doom. We're going to be talking about what would we want in a Super Metroid remake if it were to happen. And before we even start answering some of these questions, okay, let's just make one thing absolutely clear. I think that remake fatigue has definitely sunk in with a lot of people, and we're almost running out of games to remake that arguably really need to be remade. Like, and I'm not saying that just in the Metroid series, but I'm saying like in the Nintendo world as well. Like, there's not a lot of games that truly need so many quality of life improvements that they just need to be remade. And I would certainly count Super Metroid among that. Like, I think it's basically a perfect game. I think that, like, it's a game that certainly doesn't need a whole lot of quality of life improvements. There's a few, but not a lot. And so this is all to say, if it were up to me, and I'm going to speak on your behalf as well here, Doom, because I think we're on the same page. But if it were up to me, if it were up to you, like a Super Metroid remake wouldn't really exist. Like, it would just be the time and the money and the energy spent on this would just go towards a new game, right? I think that we all can kind of agree on that. But we also all know that these remakes happen, that they have their audience for them, that, frankly, there's a lot of Metroid fans that have joined the series in the last 30 years since Super Metroid has come out, and maybe they want to play a different version or a new version, or maybe they never played Super Metroid. So these remakes do have their place. It's not necessarily something that either of us are pining for, but we have heard rumors for, it seems like forever, but it seems like they've intensified in the last couple of months, that a Super Metroid remake could be on the way. So we are going to talk about, if we are going to get a Super Metroid remake, if it is going to happen, if it is inevitable, then what do we want from it? What do we want to see from it? So that is what we're going to do here today. And I will say this, Doom, like, I'm not going out here saying like we need a Super Metroid remake. Like, I think Super Metroid is perfect, but I'm certainly not going to be disappointed if they announce a Super Metroid remake at the same time.
Right. Yeah, we talked about this, I want to say 2 or 3 episodes ago, but like my opinion on the whole thing is like, as long as Super Metroid isn't the next 2D Metroid game, I'm fine with it. If it's like a supplementary title that's like kind of, making the wait for a 2D Metroid a little less intense, then yeah, why would I complain about that? Like, that's more Metroid. But like, if that is like the next 2D Metroid and it's like, oh no, we're gonna have to wait like another 5-6 years after that for Metroid 6, that's gonna be like sure, I'll be happy that we get something, but like I'd be pretty disappointed if that was the big Metroid title.
I agree. Definitely I agree, and like I guess I wouldn't hold that against Super Metroid Remake necessarily, but you would hope, like, with the momentum of Metroid Dread, that Metroid 6 is on the way. We talked about what we want to see from Metroid 6 a couple weeks ago, so yeah, I mean, like, just to really hammer it home. If we have to choose, obviously we're going to go with a new game. We're going to go with Metroid 6 or Metroid something, right? Like that's going to move the series forward. Rather than kind of a remake that, you know, we don't necessarily need. If it's going to be the bridge game, kind of like your Samus Returns and then your Metroid Dread is coming imminently, like I can live with that. But even like Metroid Dread to Samus Returns is 4 years. That yeah. I feel like is even a bit too far for me. Like 2 years I can
agree
deal with, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And like Dread didn't even like when I say that, I mean like Super Metroid Remake and Metroid 6 are like being developed in parallel together. Maybe one's taken a little bit longer because it's a new game, whereas Dread didn't start production obviously until after Samus Returns was completely finished.
Yeah. Maybe like the Metroid Prime Remastered to Metroid Prime 4 pathway is a more
that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, like that release I think is more of a suitable analogy here, but anyways, so we have a list of a few things that we would like to see a Super Metroid remake do, and I will say, Doom. So we were chatting about this before we like started the show, and I think we both kind of struggled with a little bit of the same thing, which is like Super Metroid is not a game that necessarily needs a lot of improvements. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of difficult to go in here and say like definitively like oh yep, we need to fix that we need to add that. So I struggled a little bit with this list, and I think you did maybe as well, you were saying, but we're gonna try our best here. We're gonna try our best.
And when I was doing the list, I also wasn't just trying to do like the obvious things, you know, like, you know, I want some of the dread mechanics in Super Metroid, for example. I wanted to do something, you know, more original and unique like that. Like I feel like that's a pretty obvious thing. I think everyone would expect, you know, dread mechanics and the 360 aiming, etc., to be present in, you know, a Super Metroid remake, for example.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Let's just begin the list here, Doom. And I want to start off with a homage almost to all of the Metroid remakes that we've had. But I will say is this as well. So we did kind of the counter episode to this on the Zelda cast where we were talking about an Ocarina of Time remake. I will say I would prefer a Super Metroid remake over Ocarina of Time if I have to choose between the two. And so on the Zelda cast, I was kind of saying, and I'm going to say the same thing here, is like, I think that there are, well, maybe for Super Metroid, there's really two different types of options that you're going to get. Whereas the Zelda cast, I think there was three. So when we were talking about porting Ocarina of Time, I was like, I think your options are you either port Ocarina of Time 3D, or, and this would apply to Metroid, option 2 is it's a complete one-for-one remake of the entire game, just with really snazzy looking graphics and an updated whatever control scheme, 360 aiming, you name it. Let's call this the Metroid Prime Remastered pathway, where you have incredible graphics, incredible quality of life improvements, controls are more fluid, but it is the same game, exactly the same game, and there's nothing really different. My wish is that should Super Metroid be remade, they go the pathway of Samus Returns and Zero Mission, as I think a lot of people would prefer as well. Where the game is expanded, it's changed, it's different, and it can live alongside Super Metroid, the original. Because Zero Mission and Samus Returns, I think they don't replace the original games, but they're their own unique entries that are different interpretations of those stories. And I would really hope that Super Metroid follows that same pathway. I think that there is like definitely some stuff that you could mix up, stuff that you could change, and extra areas of the planet that you could add in as well. So I would really like to see that. I would really like to see them go that direction versus just kind of doing the pixel per pixel upgrade, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think if there was a Super Metroid remake, I feel pretty confident that is the direction we'd go in because that's pretty much other than Metroid Prime Remastered, which is different. That's a 3D game versus a 2D game. All these
Hmm.
2D remakes have been complete from the ground up reimaginings. I have to imagine a Super Metroid remake would be similar. And you actually brought something up on my list. I don't know if you wanted to segue over to that immediately,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah, so you brought up the idea of like, Zero Mission in particular did this. Samus Returns to a lesser degree, but Zero Mission added pretty substantial new areas, and so that was kind of the first thing on my mind is like, oh yeah, like, Super Metroid was already like a pretty huge expansion over Nestroid. But yeah, you could definitely add like, a couple more areas to that as well with like their own unique quirks, maybe some unique gameplay mechanics that
Hmm.
we haven't really seen in a Metroid game yet that you could tie to those areas. Maybe you could have I won't go into more detail of what I was just about to say because that's another item on my list. I'll save that for later. But yeah, I definitely think, with new areas, there's definitely like a lot more opportunities to build upon and expand the game. Maybe some optional content as well. I know we're a big fans of implementing a lot more optional content and boss fights into Metroid titles. This would be a cool avenue to explore that, I think.
Yeah. I'll kind of jump ahead to one of mine as well. Is I think if they were to do a Super Metroid remake, what would be really impactful is actually if you could go to Chozodia in that remake.
That was
Yeah,
one of the areas I put down. Yeah.
I think that that would just be like a natural area to include in the game, and you can really play around with it and make it completely unique as well. And like if you wanted to, like it's another opportunity to kind of really get into the backstory of Samus and kind of tell the origin of maybe some of those early Chozo, or like honestly maybe even tell the origin of the space pirates themselves. So like I think Chozodia would be a really cool addition to the game as well.
Yeah, you completely read my mind there as well. And I thought it would be really cool because Super Metroid in and of itself, is a bit of an homage to Nestroid, especially with that opening on, the very first place you start off in Brinstar. And then it kind of expands upon that. I think it'd be really cool if the Super Metroid remake did the same thing with the Metroid 1 remake, Zero Mission. Like you could
Yeah.
do that with Chozodia. I think there's a ton of really cool opportunities there. Absolutely.
Totally. All right. Well, yeah, I do want to get a little bit mechanical, and but this one probably isn't going to excite a whole lot of people here. But what I want about the Super Metroid remake, but I definitely want the Dread engine. We got to have 360 aiming. I don't think we can ever go back to not having that in a 2D Metroid title. So we definitely got to have that. We definitely need to have the slide. I think that one I think would be tough to go back as well. You would definitely have to change some stuff in order to accommodate the slide being in this game, but I think that's totally okay. And just like the general level of polish in that engine, with the slide and with some of the movement that we saw in the game, some of the melee counters that are present, I think those absolutely need to be present in a Super Metroid remake. Like I think like the 2D Metroid game engine standard has kind of been set with Metroid Dread, and you can't take a step backwards just because you're remaking an old game. You have to work that old game around these new standardized mechanics, and I feel very confident this would happen in this remake.
Oh yeah, most definitely, 100%. I will say, so when I'm envisioning what a Super Metroid remake would be, it probably would be in that same kind of like art style as
Hmm.
Metroid Dread. I will say what I would do, and this is a bit of an ambitious take. What I would love to do is like kind of an HD 2D style. It's still 2.5D, but it's like this HD 2D style. And I've heard a lot of pushback on that just because people are kind of getting tired of that. I think it would really work for a Super Metroid remake because we haven't really seen it used in that context. It's typically used for a lot of kind of, Square Enix's kind of retro throwback RPGs. And like it definitely hit the first couple of times, but then the more they kept reusing that art style, the more it kind of got homogenized, not just into that type of that game, but like that a lot of the art directions on those games are similar as well. I think if you utilize that with like a Super Metroid remake with a completely different type of game and a completely unique art style, I think that would pop so hard, and you could still do a lot of those dread mechanics because it's still technically all rendered in 3D. So that would be my personal pick for how the game would look, but realistically, it would probably look more like Metroid Dread, which also isn't a bad thing because Metroid Dread looks beautiful, and then obviously that on the Switch 2 would probably look even better.
Yeah, I'm a complete opposite from you. I think that the 2D HD art style just would not fit like at all. For Metroid, I just think there's like a whimsicalness about that art style that just really I can't see it translating to any Metroid, let alone Super Metroid. I like maybe you could maybe do that with like Metroid 2, but if it even that, like I think Zelda would be a good franchise for the 2D HD art style. Necessarily more than Metroid would be. I had it down on my list as well. Like I don't think that we need to overthink things here, really. Like, I would have the same art style as Metroid Dread. Like, I feel like the world of Zebes is so unique in and of itself that, like, you put that kind of same polish on it, and I think it'll really pop. Obviously, Samus looks great in the game. Yeah, I think that... I think that that's kind of what you want. And, because, like, to me, the 2D HD art style kind of feels like lesser than the what we got in Metroid Dread a little bit. Not that it would look worse. Like I think that it would look great, but just it almost reminds me, and this is an extreme comparison, so forgive me, but like it almost reminds me of Federation Force a little bit, where it's like the art style detracted from the type of game and story that it was because it didn't meet the tone. That's kind of what I would feel like about 2D HD. And I think that you just go with like what works with Metroid Dread and just do that.
Definitely don't agree with that. Especially, and to be fair, you even mentioned it was a hyperbolic comparison, no, I think there's a ton of potential, specifically with like the lighting effects that you can do with the pixels. Like I think there's like a ton you could do with like lighting up individual pixels and seeing how that works out, especially with like a lot of the cavernous areas in Metroid. Like you could really like expand the depth of the backgrounds and just do a lot of cool stuff with that. Because again, I'm not thinking of like, the kind of chibi art style that you'd get with like a lot of, the Square retro RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would get like a very similar sprite work to what you'd see in like, Zero Mission, Super Metroid, obviously, but like kind of implemented in that HD 2D style. I think that would look cool. I know you're not the only one that disagrees with me. A lot of people disagree with me on that. So I'm fine to be the lone wolf shining on the cave. And to be fair, if it happened, like I said, it probably would be a Dread art style as well, which I certainly would not be complaining about.
I'm looking online to see if there's any like mock-ups or concepts of this, and I don't necessarily see it. I mean, like, listen, like I'm not gonna like completely dismiss it. I'll try anything once, But I think if you're gonna remake Super Metroid, that certainly would not be my first style because it's more of an experiment. And I mean, if you're gonna remake Super Metroid, I want it to be as best as it can be, and I that feels lesser to me. That type of art style. Where I wouldn't be interested in seeing that. Maybe they could remake Federation Force in 2D HD. That would be something I would be down for. Like that would be an upgrade for sure.
Kind of like a Terminator 2D style game, but with Federation Force. Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
I'll take like the Yoshi and the Forbidden Book or whatever art style over Federation Force for that game. Like I will try literally anything. So no, I mean I know it's kind of boring, but I'm like Metroid Dread just looks so great. It looks so polished. That's kind of the level of realism, of detail that I want from Metroid, and I think it's just like a great like sci-fi setting. And I guess in like my mind, it's like, well, Super Metroid looks perfect as is to me right now, but if I'm gonna see a different interpretation, I want it to be something really cool and cutting edge and kind of edgy, and I think your idea could work, but it's certainly more of a gamble than doing the Metroid Dread style.
Right.
So, okay, let's keep going here. My next thing that I want to see happen in a Super Metroid remake, and I don't know if this would happen or not, to be honest with you, but I want to see all the sequence breaks kept in the game, all of them. I think that they should keep the mock ball. I think that they should keep the short charge Shine Spark. I think they should keep the like all of the tricks that are in the game.
Yeah.
I think
Single
that you should keep
wall
them.
jumping.
Definitely single. That's not even. I think that's just the game's physics, which we'll also get to in a second here. Or I guess we could just say that now. Like you keep the game's physics as is to allow for stuff like that. But yeah, like I think that all of that stuff is like such an integral part of the Super Metroid identity. Why it is still such a highly played game on Twitch and on just like in competitive races. There's so much that you can do with the game. And I'll say this because I'm on the fence about if they would keep that kind of material in the game or not. The mock ball like is one I could see them keeping, but some of the other like the short charge of like going flying through the gravity jump or whatever it's called is stuff I could see them getting rid of. I would want them to keep in like sequence breaks in the game. Like Metroid Dread had a lot of sequence breaks, and some of them were kind of in your face and some of them weren't, but it at least allowed players to play how they would want to. So I hope that is something that lives on in the Super Metroid Remake, because I think it's so important to the Super Metroid identity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much how I would do it too. The way I think it would go, I think you would definitely still have sequence breaks, intentional or both intentional and unintentional. I don't know if they would be the exact same ones, or at least for the most part, that you would get in Super Metroid. Like, I don't know if they would like specifically bring back the mock ball, but I'm sure there would be like intended alternate routes that you can go if you explore off the beaten path. I don't know if they'd be the exact same ones though, and probably as a result, there'd probably be some because Metroid Dread also has like a lot of unintended skips and wall clipping that you can do that just Mercury Steam was aware of, and they just chose to not patch that out for the most part and keep that in the game. I would imagine that's probably how a Super Metroid remake would go, and I don't think I don't think it has to be 1-to-1 with Super Metroid, but I think as long as it adheres to that same philosophy of kind of that freedom of exploration, I think as long as they adhere to that same philosophy, even if it isn't 1-to-1, I'm definitely okay with that.
Yeah, I think so. As long as there's something, like as long as there's
Right.
something to do. So I agree with you there. All right, dude, what do you got next?
All right, so let's go back on because we were talking about lore for a little bit when we were talking about areas. I think this game. So my idea of like Super Metroid Remake is it's kind of like this holdover for Metroid 6. What if there's you got a new area in Super Metroid, or maybe it's even expanded version of a current area that we already have in Super Metroid, and there's like kind of like a little nugget of like interesting world building, but ultimately throwaway that ends up contributing to Metroid 6 in a way, kind of like what the secret Chozo memory kind of hinted at for Dread with like Ravenbeak and all that.
Right.
Not, and again, it could be something in Super Metroid where it's like this hidden cutscene or a hidden memory, or it could be like a little in-game little detail that kind of hints towards the future, but also isn't super important and doesn't detract from the game. And I was thinking, like, what a great opportunity this would be to expand on the wrecked ship, because that is such a mysterious part of Metroid lore still, where I mean it's still up for debate whether or not it's still a Chozo ship or whether it was retconned as the space pirate ship in Zero Mission. There's honestly a lot of evidence on both sides, and it's kind of a mess. It would be really cool to get a definitive answer on like, hey, is it a Chozo ship?
Yeah.
Or a space pirate ship? Is it both somehow? Who knows? And then like maybe reveal more of the mysteries of like what was the purpose of that ship and what's here. And maybe that's something that also leads into Metroid 6. I would go crazy for that.
I am with you. I actually had the wreck ship specifically down as like, I think it's something in a remake that they should commit to. They should commit to saying like, okay, this is the space pirate mothership from Zero Mission. I know that Sakamoto said that it wasn't, but maybe it should be. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Or they could just say like, this is a different ship and this is the reason why it's here. Whatever. Like, maybe like give us a reason. But I was the exact same kind of wavelength there. Like, I think the wreck ship should be like nail down where it came from, what its purpose was. Like, there is something to be said for leaving it mysterious and all that kind of stuff. But we're also talking, it's a 30-year-old game, and if the point of a remake isn't to answer some of these questions, like, why do it at all? So I think that it's definitely something that you just want to, like, just take a stance on and tell us, like, what is the deal with this wreck ship. And I think, like, again, like, it would be really cool if they were just like, yeah, this is the one from Zero Mission. And so it's like, you've kind of got a little bit of Chozodia here, but a little bit of Chozodia maybe in a separate area as well. So I think that would be really cool. And I think the wreck ship in particular is one area that I would almost completely redesign the wreck ship if you're going to do a remake. Because, I mean, it's super small. There's not much to it. And I think you could have a lot of fun with that. Like, it kind of reminds me of Dairon from Metroid Dread, where everything's dark. Like, you could definitely do that kind of same gimmick, and you really play with, like, maybe the lighting effects, because you don't have that a lot in Metroid, where you need to navigate through an area where you can't really see all that well. Like, pockets here and there, but I think, like, for an area, that could be really engaging. So I think, like, I would expand the area, and I would definitely, like, give some lore answers for the area as well. Great call.
And again, you don't need... Yeah, and again, you don't need to reveal every inch of detail about the wreck ship. Again, just a few more nuggets, that, like, kind of, get the brain swirling a little bit. Like, ooh,
yeah.
I didn't consider that possibility. That's interesting. I wonder if that'll play a role in the future. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Who knows?
So we talked about, we want Chozodia in some form or fashion. We want the wreck ship expanded. Is it the pirate ship? Is it not the pirate ship? Where is it coming from? I think that there is another area that could greatly benefit from being expanded. And I've talked about this on the podcast before. But I think that Sarah's Space Colony is one thing that you could absolutely make into, like, a legitimate level like that you can play through. And you know what? Maybe... I mean, you're stealing a page of Metroid Prime's book, but, like, maybe there's a slight retcon where the place doesn't explode, and maybe it lands on Zebes. I don't know, but, like, you could maybe play around with that and do, like, the Crash Frigate kind of idea as well. That might be a bit too redundant, but like, I think the level itself could be really interesting to expand upon, and it certainly get, like, a lot more like lore, at least, anyways, and really build up that atmosphere. And I've always really been romantic of the idea where you can, like, actually play as Ridley in there, and maybe it's like a little bonus, like, post-game mission or something like that, but, like, you play as Ridley and you steal the baby Metroid and you fight Samus at the end. Like, I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen, but I'd be totally game
I don't
for that.
either, but that'd be sweet.
Yeah, I almost kind of, like, if you redo the space, because, like, that's, like, such the way it's played out in Super Metroid, like, is so perfect. I almost wouldn't want to change that. Just, like, combining the title sequence and the foreshadowing with seeing the Metroid gone when you finally do get to that room. I almost don't want to play around with that, but at the same time, I feel like if it's already happened in Super Metroid, that's already untouched and untainted. You also should try something new with that as well. And so, like, I love the idea, but I'm also conflicted. But I think ultimately you should try to do something new with it, because I feel like, when you're visiting Sarah's, it never really feels like it's under attack. You go there and it's already abandoned. Everything's already dead. I feel like if Samus is rushing back to the planet, it should be, like, mid-attack. Like, it should be burning up. It should be on fire. Like, people should be getting, blown apart by Ridley in front of you. Like, maybe not literally. This is a T-rated game, but, like, there should be some like live casualties happening. I feel like, kind of like
what it should be. It should be the opening of Metroid Prime 4.
yeah, literally.
Jinx! Yeah. Like I mean, say what you will about Prime 4. I thought that intro was great. That might be the best part of the game, like, that intro, actually. Like, it's really awesome. And, like, I think you kind of want to recreate that same kind of, like, frenetic energy going on in the opening to Sarah's space colony here. Like there definitely is something to be said for like going in after everything is done and like seeing the bodies and stuff like that. So I guess I would say like pick one or the other. Like either you want like an action-packed intro or you want that really slow burn creepy style intro. But I wouldn't mind kind of the more action-packed, because I think that when you get to Zebes and you're in Criteria, that's kind of when it's slow-paced and creepy and you can really build up that tension. Whereas I think that this would be a really cool set piece to elaborate on and to have just a little bit more going on. So that's one that I think that they could expand upon as well. And it doesn't need to be anything like super big or crazy, but like just even, like it really is just like 4 or 5 rooms and then you're kind of done, where I think there's...
I'm thinking something like kind of the Frigate Orpheon from Metroid Prime 1, where it's still not a full area, but it's a lot bigger than what Sarah's Colony is in Super Metroid.
Yeah, I think that would be my kind of vision, or like for a 2D comparable, like just the surface from SR388. Like it's not too big, but it's big enough. So, all right, Doom, what do you got next?
Okay, well, I'm quickly running out of bullet points here, but we talked about... So here's one, and I feel like this is kind of like a really niche Doom moment here, but it's something that I think is very important to Super Metroid specifically, because this game does this so well. So before I say what I'm going to say, I do not want to remove all cutscenes from the Super Metroid remake. There are going to be cutscenes in this remake, probably a lot of them, and I do not want them removed. But what I do want is I want them to be a little bit de-emphasized, specifically in some key moments. And the big one that I'm thinking of right now is the Mother Brain sequence, because I don't think that sequence works nearly as well as it does if it all plays out in a cutscene. I think the magic of what makes that Mother Brain sequence so powerful is that even though you are still technically railroaded, it very much is a scripted event, it all feels like, it's happening in real time as the player, and you're just kind of watching everything unfold. Obviously, if it was a cutscene, it'd be really cool and cinematic, seeing a new interpretation of that. But I think you lose a lot of that impact by transitioning to a cutscene. So again, I don't need every single portion of this Super Metroid remake to replicate that same style, but I think there's some key moments where I would really hope that they would stick with that. Again, particularly that Mother Brain sequence, I think is super important, to kind of give the illusion that you're still within the gameplay when all that is unfolding.
I totally agree. I wasn't sure where you were going with that, because I was like, I don't want them to add in cutscenes, but you're kind of saying the opposite, and I'm totally with you.
Yes,
Mother Brain in particular, like it definitely does add a little something to see like when it's taking place in the gameplay versus when it's not. I'm gonna apologize. I opened my window to get some fresh air. We got like Air Force One outside, but I'm not closing it. By God, I'm gonna leave it open. So sorry, everybody. I think that would be like really cool. I wouldn't mind some cutscenes though, like in the game, like Ridley escaping with the Super Metroid, or something even akin to what Zero Mission did with their building up to the Ridley fight. Like I think would be really cool. I thought for the most part, like Metroid Dread was pretty selective with its cutscenes, and I'd like to see that same kind of selectiveness. I think here as well. But yeah, the final scene definitely doesn't hit as much if it's its own separate thing that you just gotta go to and see for sure.
And because that's the kind of thing where if that was made today, that would absolutely be a cutscene. And so I hope that I would hope that they don't do that, because I think it's really that's an actually like really important part of like that storyline there. And Metroid Dread to a degree also does this as well. I'm specifically thinking of the Power Bomb Emmy, the orange Emmy, where it does eventually transition into a cutscene, but first it power bombs you into like a kind of similar scripted sequence where you're kind of you lose control of Samus and it looks like you're about to get stabbed. So there definitely is some precedent there, at least to a tiny degree, of Mercury Steam implementing that. So I don't think that's necessarily like a pie in the sky request either.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, here we go. I've got a couple. I've still got a lot left on my list here, and I'm going to go to one that I'm surprised that is not on your list. But Super Metroid is You know, in many ways, it's the perfect game, but it's also the first game in the series to feature the Shine Spark, and thus doesn't really get to the level of some of the other games in the series in terms of its Shine Spark puzzles. So I think that, of course, if you are going to remake this game, you better put in some rockin' Shine Spark puzzles. We saw to great effect these puzzles in Metroid Dread. I would keep the ability to jump and maintain your Shine Spark. I thought that really gave the game life, really added momentum. I think that there are a lot of really cool sequences that you could do in the game. I would modernize the Shine Spark as well so that you don't lose health when you do it. And really just that, just kind of continue the proud tradition of these incredible Shine Spark puzzles that you really need to go all in for in order to achieve. So, and I think again that would be a given.
Yeah, I totally agree there. The only thing, and I don't know if they would change this, is I think when you get hit while you're storing a charge, I think that should completely eliminate your charge and make you start over again. That they don't do that in Dread. You can still keep your charge when you're hit. I personally, I would be absolutely cruel with it. I think it should be old school style, where you get hit, you lose your charge, you start over again. But that's a minor nitpick.
I didn't even know you did that in Dread. I just don't get hit. Don't get hit. Yeah, totally.
Sounds like a you issue.
Yeah. It's just too good at these Shine Sparks, I guess. Do you have anything left on your list, Doom, or do you want me to riff on a couple of mine?
Yeah, I got one more. So, and this is something we've definitely talked about before in implementing, but the X-ray visor is a very, even though it's an optional upgrade, I would say a very important part of Super Metroid as well.
Yeah.
And we've definitely pitched some ideas of how you could bring the X-ray visor back into a modern 2D Metroid. I think it was either you or Dak that kind of had the idea of just making the entire screen go X-ray. My idea is a little bit different. What I would do is I would implement the 360 aiming. You would still do kind of the cone that Samus has, but it's controlled in real time by the 360 aiming. It's a lot faster now rather than the slow moving X-ray visor, and you have the actual X-ray effect going on within that cone. So it's kind of like double layers, where you have the main game world and then you have the X-ray version of that world in that view cone, piloted by that 360 aim. That's how I would do it. I think that would look rad as hell.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. I think I'm pretty much open to the idea, a couple of different ideas. So I had X-ray scope on my list as well. I would be open to what you said. I think that would be fine. I think as long as it's just a singular button press, even the X-ray visor as is in Super Metroid isn't that bad. It's just kind of getting to it takes a little bit of time, as we'll get to in a little bit here. I would also, I'll be honest, I would be fine with just replacing the X-ray scope with the scan pulse. I would be fine with that. You wouldn't need, I think you could just have it without Aether, and just whatever, every time that you wanted to use it, or not Aether, Aeon, sorry, or whatever powers it up. But every time you want to use it, you just press the button and it just works. I think that is fine. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it drains some of your health, who cares? But I think I could just be on board for having the scan pulse. I don't mind your idea at all either. I don't mind the idea of you get it and it's a button that you press and it just reveals cracks or hidden things. I think I'm fine with any of those options, but I do think it needs to be streamlined a little bit more, just to make it a little bit more, a little bit more user-friendly.
Right. And I think it would be. The Switch and Switch 2 controllers have a lot more buttons now than the SNES did. Metroid control schemes have also been a bit more modernized and simplified, whereas, Super Metroid, you had to kind of cycle through all those abilities. I definitely don't think that would be coming back in a Super Metroid remake. And even though we both adore Super Metroid, I think we both agree that would be for the better as well.
Oh, totally. I'll literally jump to my next point, which is you have to get rid of that. So, it's just, and that's certainly one of the things where Super Metroid shows its age. Probably the biggest thing that Super Metroid shows its age, actually, is having to press select to scroll between missiles, power bombs, super missiles, X-ray, grapple. I would anticipate I'll just talk mechanics here for a quick second. But again, going to Metroid Dread, I would anticipate it's pretty much exactly the same. You hold down your button for super missiles. I gotta say, I wouldn't mind if the game just combined super missiles and missiles, like Metroid Fusion does.
Well, Dread does that. Samus Returns is the one that does it old school style, where you still
Right.
switch. Yeah.
So I kind of think it would be old school style here, which is fine. But I would want a button where you hold down the R button and now your missiles are open and you fire, and maybe you hold down a separate button and your super missiles fire as well. They have to make it easier to switch between the two, for sure. I think that you automatically aim at something that's that's able to be grappled, and your grapple beam just goes, much like it does in Metroid Dread. And obviously, same thing with power bombs. You hold your button when you're in morph ball form. Boom, there's your power bomb. That definitely is probably the biggest flaw of Super Metroid is going through your different artillery.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I feel like that's a pretty obvious given. I would be stunned if they stuck with that same thing.
I mean, there's no chance that they are not fixing that and streamlining that. You talk about a quality of life improvement. That's the big one right there. I'm going to throw in another quality of life improvement while I am talking about that as well. But I will say that I think that the space jump in Super Metroid can be a bit finicky sometimes, a bit particular.
Yeah.
I think they want to really finesse that. You like pretty much every entry since has made it a little bit easier, where you simply just press the jump button and you jump again. Whereas Super Metroid, you kind of have to angle your jump or really time it in the proper way to get maximum height. Which I don't mind, but it's certainly more involved, and I think that it could just be a little bit simpler to use.
Yeah. And again, I feel like it would work pretty much identically to Metroid Dread. I will say, kind of going back to art direction again, I much prefer the 2D animation style of the space jump, where the image starts to distort when Samus is somersaulting. I think that's a really cool image there, whereas in Samus Returns in Dread, she just kind of continuously somersaulting without any unique effects. I would hope that they and I would imagine it's probably a little bit more difficult to do that with a 3D versus a 2D sprite, but I would hope that they would find some way to bring it back, because I think that just looks way cooler than just using the exact same somersault animation and just kind of copying that over and over again.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that the space jump and the screw attack in particular was really kind of nerfed in Samus Returns, and pretty much the same thing in Metroid Dread. It's not as impactful, it's not as powerful as it feels when you've got the screw attack in Super Metroid, you feel indestructible, which I really, really love. So yeah, I would hope that that they would do something like that, where it's you really want to see and sell the impact of this all powerful move that you are getting as well. So yeah,
I wasn't even talking about the screw attack. I agree with that, but I was more so talking about the space jump animation. But yes, that too. I hope that the screw attack feels as overpowered as it should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with what you were saying about the space jump as well. It's kind of doing a continuous somersault isn't quite as it's not quite as flashy as it could be. So I would like to
even
see
the sound design. That kind of wind whipping sound design it does when you're doing the space jump as well. Again, it doesn't have to be the exact same sound, but I just make it it's a space jump. It should feel like something that's almost inhuman to do. Whereas you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, here is something I would really want this. I really doubt this would happen in a Super Metroid remake. But I would love for them to kind of take the ball from AM2R and just have little scans that pop up when you enter new areas or when you encounter bosses or something like that. Have a logbook. There's no reason why 2D Metroid can't also have a logbook full of creatures and information and lore and stuff like that. I think that it would be really cool. I think that it would be add a lot to the world, and it would be something really easy that you could do really easily. So that's what I hope. Do I think that they're going to do it? No, not really. There's another avenue where they could try and do something like this, but I would also kind of be holding my breath on that one as well. But I just think like scans are kind of long overdue for 2D Metroid. I think they could have been a part of Samus Returns, definitely Dread, and certainly Super Metroid Remake.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. Again, this is something we've talked about numerous times on the podcast, so I'm definitely open to finally, introducing, some text lore-based entries. And yeah, Super Metroid Remake would be a really fun place to do it. Yeah, especially because like there's such a diverse creature lineup in that game too. Like it'd be really cool to just to get some new information about the fauna and wildlife about Zebes.
Yeah. So I just, man, I think that it would just be like such a no-brainer to do that. But do I think that they're going to do that? No, not really. I'm not really holding my breath for that. Okay. Do you have any more, by the way? I'm kind of taking over here, but I want to make sure that if you do have any more that we get to yours.
I've gone through my main list. I'm kind of mostly just like thinking of stuff on the spot right now that I would that I would love to add.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me keep on rapping here, and if there's anything,
keep on rolling. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get really granular here. So I want to focus on boss fights for a quick second. I'll start with Kraid. I almost think that you should just take the exact Kraid model from Metroid Dread and put it into this game. But I want them to keep the Kraid quick kill. I think that's a very important part of the game. But I really did love that Kraid fight in Metroid Dread. I thought that was the best fight, one of the best fights in the game. I would really love to have the ability to fight the ghost of Crocomire after. Like there's the great fake out in this game, and I think it's kind of like a nice moment where you can like do the fake out, and every Super Metroid veteran is gonna be like, okay, well, here's the fake out. All these new players are gonna think we're fighting a boss, but we're not. Oh my god, we actually got to fight this boss! Like, I think that would be awesome to bring back old Croc for one last bit of revenge after his untimely demise. I'm not sure how that would work, because X Fusion does it too, but like it's possessed by an X parasite, so like they get away with it there. I don't know. They can probably figure out whatever.
You
could just have it be a ghost. Like you're talking about Fantoon here, like
that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but I'm game for that. That'd be fantastic.
And I want to talk about the Ridley fight as well, in particular, where like I really, really, really would not like for them to do anything different with this fight. Like, I don't want them to put like a weak point on Ridley. I don't want them to make it so you have to do this and this and this, and then Ridley's open for attack. I just want it to be like, this fight is so incredible because it's just like Samus, Ridley, have at her. And it's just like, who can hit who the hardest, the fastest, and who is standing after it's done. There's so few boss fights like it. And I think it's so spectacular that like, I would hate for them to kind of take away from this fight in any kind of way by introducing like patterns or like strategy or stuff like that. Not to say that there's not strategy, but you know what I mean. Like, I really love it. It's just like a big old hoss fight between two big bastards,
Right. It probably, I would imagine it probably would lean more towards the pattern recognition stuff. I don't know if you'd fully lose out on that though, because I mean, I look at I look at Proteus Ridley from Samus Returns, and like there isn't really, you can only use the plasma beam and super missiles for that fight, not regular missiles. But there's no like specific weak point. You're still just kind of trying to shoot. You're shooting Ridley before he takes away your health, but there is a bit more room for you to dodge attacks. It's not just like, it's not that bare knuckle brawl where everyone is just running at each other as fast as they can and headbutting each other like kind of the Super Metroid fight is. They probably, and I agree with you there. I do love that like the Ridley fight plays out in Super Metroid like that. They probably wouldn't, I don't imagine they would recreate it exactly like that, but I do think there would be opportunity to still have a fun fight. But I think that's going to be, at the end of the day, like we were saying before, both of these games should be able to stand on their own and have unique qualities that make them special. I think that Ridley fight is just going to be one of those things that forever makes Super Metroid special.
And very possible. I just and like, to be honest, like if they did the like if they did like a Proteus Ridley type of fight, like who is complaining about that? Probably not me, right? Like that fight is also incredible. But there's something so sacred to me about this Ridley fight that I kind of don't want them to do anything to it. But to your point, I also think that there's something to be said for like making things unique to the game. So that's a good point to bring up as well.
Especially, and that's especially if like this remake also has like kind of a Dread one-hit kill mode. If that was the case, you can pretty much kiss that goodbye, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, dude, that would be impossible for Ridley. Like, I don't think that you could do that in this game. And I didn't write that on my list, but actually we should also say like there should be definitely different difficulty settings for this game as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you could do like. I don't think you could do Dread mode, because, like, what if you get caught by a Metroid? I guess then you're just dead. Yeah, that's, you just don't get caught, is the answer.
Yeah, you freeze the Metroid before it latches onto you.
Yeah.
There are some rare examples of stuff in Dread mode that is, I believe, like, heated areas and frozen areas in Dread, that will not kill you instantly. That will still drain your health like it does regularly before you get those suit upgrades. So maybe you do something with the honestly, I would make the Metroids one-hit kill personally.
I could be fine with that. Ridley, I feel like would be nuts. That fight would be nuts. Even like thinking, I like any Ridley fight, I think would be nuts to do in one-hit kill. But I'm sure that there are people that could totally do it. So, power to them. All right,
X-Fusion difficulty.
Oh my god. Speaking of bosses, I would like. So I said that I would like to see a area from Zero Mission, and I want to see a boss from Zero Mission as well in this game. And I think if I have to pick like a unique boss from the game to bring into here, I'm probably gonna go with the Chozo test. Try that concept again, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but like same kind of like just general concept, I suppose. I think that you could have Mecha Ridley somewhere as well. I don't think that you really want to bring back like I don't know, like a Mago or any of the other kind of like sub bosses like the Acid Worm or whatever.
Right.
But like I think that you want like again a little bit of connective tissue to Zero Mission.
I do really like the Charge Beam Beast. I feel like that's like kind of like, I don't know, there's something about that enemy that just like screams Zero Mission to me though, and so I feel like that should stay in Zero Mission. But I absolutely love that enemy design. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you there. Yeah, I would either do, maybe Mecha Ridley in like the Space Pirate ship remains, or like the Chozodia test in the Chozodia remains. I feel like either of those feel like the one to go with. And hey, maybe that Chozodia test, contributes to that extra lore that's in the game as well.
It could. I actually, now that you've said it, I don't hate the idea of the Charge Beam Beast, because you do just kind of grab the Charge Beam. It's just like sitting out in the open. I could see like maybe a little boss fight for that guy, like, and kind of keep it with the same idea where it could pop up anywhere in the map.
Right.
Could be cool.
Yeah, I love that it pops. Obviously, like depending on how good you are, you might not be able to experience it multiple times. But like, I love the fact that it's like a boss that physically locks you in. It's not like a door that locks or a piece of debris that falls over. No, it's like the boss itself is physically causing a barrier that prevents you from escaping to either side. Like, I think that's such a cool concept.
Yeah. Okay, let's go talk about the map here for a quick second. I think if this game gets a remake, I still kind of like romanticize the 2D grid map that we have in most other games. Metroid Dread kind of the exception of it's evolving a little bit past that, but I kind of like that it's still on a grid. I'm old school that way. One thing about the map that I would like is I don't want them to do like the dots that show up in other games that indicate that there's a power up there, because Super Metroid, as we've talked about, has a couple different spots where there are two power-ups in the same room. So I think if they're going to go with something like that, it should be flashing, like kind of like it was in Metroid Dread. But I almost think, like, I wonder if there is a way in game where there's just like a station somewhere in the game. Maybe it's in Chozodia, maybe it's in the wreck ship, but you access it kind of maybe later in the game. that works essentially like Metroid Prime 3, where it just shows you all the power-ups on the map. Or like maybe each area has one of these power-ups.
I was gonna say, I think Metroid Prime 4 actually does it perfectly with like the bots that are in each area, and you have to you have to go out of your way to find the bot. That's not marked on the map, but once you do, it'll mark all the item locations for you. I think that's kind of what I would do. I also kind of like the idea
you're right, yeah.
of like, and in Metroid Dread, I believe if you defeat all the enemies in a room, it will reveal all the item locations in a room. I think what I would rather do, kind of going back to the X-ray visor concept, what I would love to do is like, if you see an item, it automatically appears on your map, including if you see it through like the X-ray visor. So like maybe you can't normally see the item, but you know, you're aiming your X-ray cone and it spots the item. That item is now marked on your map. That I think would be another really cool idea to implement.
Yeah, I really like that a lot, actually. Yeah, and you're right. I think Metroid Prime 4 did a really great job with its like item kind of mapping for you. So I would like to see that as well. I have a couple of other ones here, Doom, but these are like pie in the sky dreams that I would put into to a remake here. So if you'll indulge me, I've got a couple left. One.
All right, absolutely.
One. You and I know this is never going to happen, but I feel it is our responsibility, if we're talking about a Super Metroid remake, to just advocate for it. Put in a speedrun mode, put in a randomizer mode, put in something to give this game legs. Nintendo, their mortal enemy is the randomizer and the speedrun mode. So this, of course, will not happen, but I think it should. And I think everyone would be really excited about that. And you know, it does kind of feel like if there is a game where you should try this for the first time, even if you're a decade late, it should be Super Metroid Remake.
We'll go a step further in that. There should be online leaderboards as well, and you can compare the leaderboards worldwide. You can do it by nation. You can compare it with your friends list. I think leaderboards is something that's long overdue for 2D Metroid. Yeah, so I would be super on board for that. That would be like, I know for sure, like you and I would definitely be competing for some leaderboards. A bunch of people in the Omega Metroid server would, I'm sure Game Worm would absolutely destroy us in the leaderboards.
Oh, he's a sickening player. Like he's
yeah. But yeah, that would be awesome. Like I want leaderboards for 2D Metroid, and yeah, God, a randomizer. Like it's such an obvious move. I feel like it's something that Mercury Steam would want to do too, but like I don't think as long as Nintendo is doing this, at least in their current form, it's never gonna happen. They hate randomizers because for whatever reason they associate randomizers with piracy, which is absolutely not the case. You can just do your own randomizer. I will happily buy it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. But I hope that happens. That's probably the least likely of the three things that I have written down here. I think that the second one isn't so crazy, but if you're gonna do a Super Metroid remake, I think that you should kind of like celebrate Metroid history a little bit, and let's have some extra suits. Let's have some extra skins for Samus to play as, just cosmetics, right? Like let's get the fusion suit in there. Let's get the dread suit in there. Let's get the Phazon suit in there. Like let's get creative and give Samus something else to wear. Let's get Justin Bailey back, right? Like that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean this is something I want in like Metroid in general, 2D, 3D or otherwise. I mean we're seeing it with Mario and Zelda, and even DK now, where you can, there's so many costumes and customizations where you can change your look, including like a bunch of like throwback costumes. Like it is criminal that we can't do this with Metroid. There's so many different options there, and I would absolutely be willing to wait a little bit wait a few months longer if it meant that we had like some extra skin sets to choose from. Heck, make it a paid DLC option. I am the idiot who will pay $5 to $10 for like a skin pack, even if I only use it once. I will do it.
Yeah, I'm totally. I'm that guy too. I'm just as dumb. So
make it an amiibo unlock. I don't know.
Well, I didn't write that down, but man, I'm also the idiot that would totally love some Super Metroid amiibo. I gotta say, like a Ridley Super Metroid, the red Ridley. Oh baby, can you imagine?
Give it to me.
Can you imagine Mother Brain with the Super Metroid latched to its head? Like,
oh my god, just take my money.
I would
take my money right now.
That man, oh man, oh man. Okay, one last thing here, Doom, and then I'm done.
Okay.
I think that if you are going to remake Super Metroid, I think that it should be a celebration of Super Metroid. And so, much like we saw with Prime Remastered and how they released never before seen kind of concept artwork or what character models, whatever, I think you should absolutely do the same thing with Super Metroid. There's got to be a lot of stuff in the vault that we don't know about. I would even take it a step further. Like there was a great... Oh god, and the name is escaping me now. There was a great Tetris game that just came out that had like 40 different versions of Tetris. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
GUI has it. Now of course I can't remember what it's called. But so this game had like all these different versions of Tetris, but it also had like the history of Tetris. It had interviews with like the people that made Tetris, and it was like it was almost like a documentary as well as a game. And like I don't think that we need anything the same level, but like, you know, maybe we could get like a behind the scenes, I don't know, like an interview with Sakamoto or something like that, right? Or something with somebody that was involved with the creation of the game, just detailing like, hey, you know, or even like what we saw with the art book for the Prime trilogy, just kind of like a little bit of insight there. Like I think that stuff could be really valuable. And earlier I said like there's another avenue where if they don't do in-game scans, this is kind of what I was thinking, like maybe you could have someone from Nintendo explain like hey, this is what we were thinking in Brinstar, or this are some of the challenges reimagining Brinstar. I think that you kind of want to add value to this game, and to me, Super Metroid is one of the best games ever created. It's basically a perfect game, and it doesn't need a remake. So like if you're going to do a remake, what are you going to do to make this a worthwhile endeavor? And I think like kind of celebrating the history of the game scratches that itch for me.
Yeah, I imagine if they did something like that, it probably would take more the form of like an art book or like a separate piece of media outside of the game. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that would be awesome. I think projects like this at the end of the day, like we're remaking the game because we're celebrating this game ultimately, because we're trying trying to honor this game's legacy and its history, and I think there's no better way to show that and then just kind of like peeking behind the vault in a case like especially with Metroid. Like there's I know you weren't quite as thrilled with the art book as I was, but like even in the art book, like there's a ton of like really interesting never before seen concept art that just like explored like all of these different possibilities that these games could have gone in. And I would love to see that similar kind of approach to Super Metroid, along with kind of what Prime Remaster did, where it also included the brand new concept art that was made just for that game as well. I'd go crazy for that.
Like I think they should just have like the Metroid Prime Remastered style art gallery, like an extras gallery at bare minimum, right? Like, so I think that is something. And you know what, my one final, you already touched on this, but let's just make it official. If I get 100% items in this game, put in a secret cutscene at the end that builds towards, maybe it's Metroid 6. I don't know. Maybe it is someone coming and extracting a Metroid that we don't know about, Doom. Maybe there's more than one Metroid. Who knows? But yeah, put in something that teases the future of the series.
Kind of leapfrogging off of that, I think also if you rescue the animals, which you have to have the animal rescue scene. It is literally canon to Metroid Fusion that the animals are saved. I think you have a little bit more of an elaborate hidden cutscene showing how exactly the animals got off Zebes, because you kind of just see like a little glowing dot, but it's like, did they find a ship? Do they just have flying superpower? How did they get off the planet? I think there should be, if you rescue the animals, I think you should get a little bit more of an elaborate cutscene showing how they escaped.
I think so too, and it doesn't have to be much. Just like you could even have like them go into an extra room and Samus follows, and there's an escape pod there, and like Samus goes to a terminal, presses A to activate it, puts in coordinates or something like that. Boom, you're done. Like, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's my list. Did we leave any stone unturned?
I have one more. I, of course, saved the best for last.
Okay.
In our Super Metroid remake, we are wiping out Meridia from the face of the earth. It's gone. It's done. It's never... I'm kidding. We're not doing that. I just had to throw that in there at the end.
Oh, boy. Great area, Meridia. Top 10, I think we said, in the Great Metroid area ranking. All right, well, there we go. That is our wish list for the Super Metroid Remake. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you would want. Let us know what else that you would like to see in this game. Should it happen, yes, we all want Metroid 6, but if it's going to happen, let's make it as great as it can be. So let us know over on Discord. Let us know over on Blue Sky. Check us out at Omega Metroid, at Spiteri316, at Doom Cross, and check out the Omega Metroid podcast wherever you get your podcast. Go like, subscribe, recommend, rate, review. All of that stuff really helps our show get over to new Metroid fans, and you can tell a Metroid fan in your life, if there is one, hey, this podcast is doing weekly shows every single Wednesday. There is a new episode released somehow, some way. We are doing it for the love of the game. So spread the good word about the Omega Metroid podcast. Check out OmegaMetroid.com. We've got your Metroid news, guides, walkthroughs, maps, anything that you could possibly think of. My God, it's over on OmegaMetroid.com. And check us out over on Patreon as well, patreon.com/spnet. The Great Metroid area ranking is there in its entirety, every single area in the Metroid series ranked, plus Gooey Plays Metroid, plus ROM hack reviews, plus the Zelda wing of Patreon, plus a lot of bonus stuff there as well. $1 gets you in the door, so go and check that out. And if you want to watch these podcasts in video form, check out our YouTube page. You can comment and see our smiling faces as we talk Metroid every single week. That is going to do it for us, my friends. So until next week, everybody, take care. Ciao.